This July, 3 quiet shifts are about to hit America's seniors, and each one of them was designed for a single purpose: to drain money right out of your account. Not sometime down the road, not next year, this very month. The first one can shave a piece off your Social Security payment before that money even touches your bank. The second one hands the government the power to freeze half of your monthly benefit, even in the cases where the error was theirs, not yours. And the third, the one hardly anyone is warning you about, can silently shut down the assistance that millions of older Americans lean on just to keep meals on the table. Here's what makes all of this so troubling. Every single one of these changes was engineered to slip in unnoticed. No bold printed warning letter, no phone call, no heads up from anybody. The way you're supposed to find out is when your deposit lands lighter than it should. And by that moment, the money is already out the door. I'm Walter Barron. I work as an estate attorney, and I've spent years sitting across kitchen tables from families who discovered a rule exactly like these ones, a single month too late. What I do on this channel is straightforward. I dig through the fine print so you don't have to, and I break down, in language a real human being can follow, precisely what's shifting and precisely what you can do about it. Because here's what they'll never mention out loud. For every one of these 3 changes, there is a legal path to shield yourself, but only if you spot it coming. So stick with me. Whether you're 62 or pushing 82, whether you're still clocking hours or fully retired, at least one of these 3 is going to reach into the life of someone you care about. And that third change, that's the one I want your full attention on, because it's the one nobody sees hitting them until it has already landed. Let's dive into the first change, and it's a heavy one. Beginning this July, the federal government is once again permitted to reach into your Social Security payment and pull money out of it to satisfy an old student loan balance. Now, I can already hear what a few of you are thinking. Walter, I'm in my 70s. I don't owe on any student loans. And maybe you're right, but hold on before you tune out, because this change is blindsiding people for 2 big reasons. The first is that this practice had been on hold for so long that almost everyone assumed it was history. During the pandemic, the feds paused collections on defaulted federal student loans, and that pause quietly stretched on and on. Millions of borrowers concluded the debt had just disappeared. It didn't. It was sitting untouched the entire time. And now, the collection engine is being cranked back to life. The second reason really hurts. This isn't only aimed at the borrowers themselves. It reaches grandparents and parents who co-signed or who took out what's known as a Parent Plus loan to help a kid or a grandkid make it through school. If your name is on that loan and it slipped into default, the government treats that debt as yours, and your Social Security is now fair game to collect it. Here's the mechanics of how this happens. It runs through what's called the Treasury Offset Program. When a federal student loan defaults, the Treasury is allowed to garnish your Social Security. They can take as much as 15% of your monthly payment. There's one safety net worth noting. They're required to leave you with at least $750 per month. But sit with what that actually means. If your monthly check comes in at, let's say, $1,200, that 15% works out to $180, pulled every month before you ever set eyes on it. On a fixed budget, $180 isn't spare change. That's the power bill. That's a week of groceries. That's the copay for your medication. Let me put a face on this. Imagine a woman, 68, retired, getting by on a small Social Security payment. A decade ago, she put her name on a loan so her grandson could enroll in college. Things got rough for him. Payments were missed. The loan slid into default and life kept moving. She's barely thought about that paperwork in 10 years. Then, one month, her deposit arrives short by nearly $200, and no clear explanation comes with it. She didn't do a single thing differently. Nothing in her routine shifted. What actually shifted was a lever pulled inside some office in DC. That's how silently this unfolds. And we're not talking about a small pocket of people here. The projections suggest around 450,000 Social Security recipients could get swept into this once collections come fully back online. A huge share of them are retirees whose entire income is that one monthly check. So here's exactly what to do, and I really want you to jot this down. Do not just wait passively for a lighter deposit to show up. If your name is attached to any federal student debt at all, including a Parent Plus loan you took for a child or a grandchild, you have genuine options and hardly anyone uses them. Option 1 is financial hardship. You can file with the Department of Education to halt the garnishment on the basis that taking that money would leave you unable to meet your basic living costs. And here's a figure that genuinely stunned me. According to the government's own Consumer Protection Agency, roughly 82% of Social Security recipients with a defaulted federal student loan would in fact qualify for hardship relief. 82%. The relief is right there on the shelf, and almost no one grabs it, purely because no one told them it existed. Option 2 is to lift the loan out of default altogether, either through loan rehabilitation, where you commit to a series of small, mutually agreed monthly payments, or through consolidation. The moment the loan comes out of default, garnishment ends. Your Social Security is safe again. Bottom line, this lock isn't unpickable, but that door only swings open if you make your move before or right when your check begins shrinking. Get on the phone with your loan servicer, bring up hardship, bring up rehabilitation, and do it now while the full amount is still landing in your account. Which brings us to the second change. And if the first one raised your blood pressure a little, this next one is going to make you lean forward, because this one doesn't care whether you owe anyone a dime. As of now, the Social Security Administration has the authority to withhold up to half of your total monthly payment to recover what they label an overpayment. Let me explain what an overpayment actually is, because most people have it wrong. An overpayment is when Social Security concludes that at some earlier point they sent you more money than they should have. Maybe your income shifted, maybe a benefit got recalculated, maybe a piece of paperwork got processed weeks behind schedule. And here's the part that has people fuming, and honestly, they have every right to be. In a huge number of these cases, the overpayment wasn't triggered by anything you did. It came from their miscalculation, their system, their filing error. And yet, you're the one they turn to when it's time to claw the money back. For years, this used to be handled with a light touch. Under the older method, when they went after an overpayment, they deduct roughly 10% of your monthly check while the balance got worked down. 10% hurts, but a person can manage around it. That era is finished. Earlier this year, the agency moved to bring back a far harsher approach. Their initial announcement was that they'd claim 100%, every dollar of your check, until the full amount was recovered. After public backlash boiled over, they walked it back to 50%. Half. Really let that land for a second. Half of your Social Security payment held hostage, possibly for months on end, to cover a mistake you might not have made in the first place. When your entire monthly income rests on that deposit, half isn't an annoyance. Half is a catastrophe. I've watched this play out in real life. Picture a 71-year-old man who opens what looks like an ordinary envelope in his mailbox. Inside is a letter informing him he was overpaid 3 years back, and that they plan to recover it by clipping half of his check starting shortly. He reads it once, twice, a third time. No raise ever happened. No income ever went unreported. As far as he can piece it together, if anyone slipped up, it was them, not him. Yet the letter isn't asking his permission. It's telling him what's happening. That feeling, that swirl of confusion and dread, is exactly what close to 2 million households are about to be sitting with. And the majority of them will assume there's nothing left to do about it. That assumption is the priciest error of all. And this isn't some rare situation. According to the government's own recent data, nearly 2 million beneficiaries have been overpaid, totaling somewhere around $23 billion. That's a mountain of letters being mailed out and a mountain of checks about to be sliced in half. But here's the good news, and this is exactly why I need you to understand your rights. You are not defenseless in the face of an overpayment notice. There are 3 concrete moves you can make, and they genuinely work. Step 1. The second one of these notices arrives, know that there's a window, generally somewhere around 90 days, before they actually start pulling money out. Do not sleep through that window. That window is your shield. Step 2. If the withholding they've announced would gut your ability to pay bills, you can ask them to reduce it. There's a specific form for exactly this situation, the request for a lower rate of withholding. You tell them what you can honestly manage, say 10% instead of 50%, and you can push your check back closer to whole while everything gets ironed out. Step 3, and this is the heavy hitter. If you genuinely believe the overpayment wasn't your doing, or you don't even believe you were overpaid at all, you have the right to appeal and the right to request a waiver. Filing that appeal within the deadline can actually pause the collection while they review the case. And the waiver itself makes a simple case. This was not caused by me, and I'm not in a position to repay it. Please forgive it. People win these outcomes, but only the people who actually file for them. So if one of these notices ever finds its way into your mailbox, Don't panic, and definitely don't throw it away. It isn't a final verdict. It's the opening line of a conversation, and in that conversation, you hold far more leverage than they'd ever want you to know about. Now, before we get into that third change, the one I promised almost nobody sees coming, give me 30 seconds because so many of you have written in asking me to bring all of this together in one place. Everything I break down here on the channel, the Social Security landmines, the property tax discounts most seniors never bother applying for, the banking moves nobody spells out for you, the exact forms, the exact steps. I've pulled all of it into one straightforward guide. It's called the Senior Money Playbook. It was written for actual human beings, not for lawyers, so you can flip through it and actually put it to use. It'll walk you through the moves that protect the money you already have, and the money that might currently be slipping past you. It's genuinely the same advice I'd hand my own parents. If you want a copy, there's a link waiting for you in the description. Take a look after the video wraps up. All right, the third change. This is the one I really didn't want tucked at the bottom because it's the quietest of the three, and it's going to blindside the largest number of people. Starting this July, the rules around food assistance are being redrawn in a way that scoops up a whole group of older Americans who used to be shielded from them. I'm talking about SNAP, the program most folks still call food stamps. For years, there was a work requirement tied to it, but only for younger adults. Older adults were off the hook. If you were in your late 50s or into your early 60s, you didn't have to prove you were working in order to keep your food benefits. That protection is exactly what's being taken away under the new law. The safe age is being raised. Adults who don't otherwise qualify for an exemption now have to meet a work requirement to hold on to their benefits, and that requirement now extends all the way up to age 65. In real-world terms, this catches a massive group of Americans in their late 50s and early 60s, people who figured this kind of paperwork was well behind them, and forces them to log 80 hours a month of employment, approved job training, or volunteer work, just to keep the food help they've been depending on. 80 hours a month is right around 20 hours a week. For a 62-year-old, maybe managing a chronic illness, maybe looking after a spouse, maybe already squeezed out of the labor market, that's not a small demand. Think about a 63-year-old woman who walked away from her job to look after her husband with dementia. She hasn't retired in any comfortable sense of the word. She's on duty around the clock, just without a paycheck to show for it. She's been leaning on food assistance to make her limited income stretch a little further. Under the previous rules, her age was enough to protect her. Under the new rules, unless she gets the correct exemption filed, she's expected to go find 20 hours of work a week or lose the help. And the projected numbers are grim. Analysts estimate that upward of 1 million older adults in that 55 to 64 age band could lose their food assistance because of this shift. But, and this part is important, the exemptions haven't all been erased. Real protections still exist. And this is where knowing the rules pulls you back from the edge. You may still qualify for an exemption if you're medically unable to work. You may still qualify if you're the primary caregiver for a dependent, a young grandchild you're raising, or a family member who can't manage on their own. If you're receiving disability payments, SSI or Social Security disability, that generally covers you. And the moment you actually hit 65, the full exemption returns. So here's your play. If you or someone in your family is sitting in that late 50s to mid 60s stretch and depends on food assistance, don't wait passively for a cutoff letter to show up. Get on the phone with your state SNAP office. Ask them directly which exemption fits your circumstances and get the supporting documents filed on time. A note from your doctor, proof of your caregiving role, proof of your disability status. An exemption only protects you if it's actually on record. The people who lose their benefits almost never lose them because they didn't qualify. They lose them because the paperwork never got submitted. Let's tie this all together because I want you walking away with the full picture, not just 3 unsettling headlines. 3 changes are landing this July, and they all share one common thread. Every one of them was engineered to move without noise. The student loan garnishment, up to 15% of your Social Security, switching back on for hundreds of thousands of Americans, grandparents who co-signed included. The overpayment clawback, up to half of your monthly deposit held back, frequently for a mistake that was never yours to begin with. And the food assistance work rule, now stretching all the way up to age 65, yanking the safety net out from under a group that used to be protected. But you are not defenseless against any of them. On the student loan side, there's hardship relief that a huge majority actually qualifies for and almost no one claims. On the overpayment side, there's a window, a lower withholding request, and an appeal and waiver process that can pause the collection and sometimes wipe it out entirely. And on the food assistance side, there are still exemptions on the books that hold up, as long as you file for them on time. The single most important thing I can leave you with is this. The people who get flattened by these changes are hardly ever the people who ran out of options. They're the people who never realized the options were sitting right there until the money was gone. That's the whole game. These rules count on you not looking closely. So looking closely today is exactly how you beat them. Please keep in mind, what I've shared here is general education, not personalized legal or financial advice for your specific circumstances. And the way each of these rules gets applied can vary and can shift over time. Always double-check your own situation with the Social Security Office, the Department of Education, or your state's benefits office before you take action. But now you know exactly what's coming, and you know the plays to run. Do me one small favor. Picture one person in your life who's over 60, living on a fixed income, and pass this video along to them. One of these 3 changes could be about to hit their check, and there's almost no chance they've heard a word about it in advance. You could be the reason they keep their money. Thanks for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself out there, and I'll see you in the next one.